10 tips. Here's 10 tips how you can practice scales on guitar. But before I show you these 10 tips, just give me a moment to talk a little bit about this subject and my general thoughts about scales. My name is Emanuel Hedberg and I teach guitar. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to know more about blues, jazz and guitar playing in general. So what's the best way to practice scales on guitar and what should your practice routine look like? Well, that depends of course on what your end goal is. Practicing scales up and down like this is of course good for developing speed and your technique, especially if you want to become a shredder, and absolutely nothing wrong with that. But scale practice is not only meant for developing speed and dexterity, at least not for me. Scale practice is more about fretboard knowledge and getting to know the scale in and out so you can use it in any kind of music style. Scale practice is not only about playing patterns up and down the neck, it's also about playing arpeggios that you can find within the scale and to understand the intervals and the degrees of the scale and to get familiar with the sound of the scale. So here's my 10 tips on how you can practice your scales on guitar and how you can become a better guitar player and soloist. Tip 1. Know the sequence. So know the sequence of intervals between the notes of the scale. For example, the sequence of the major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. This is super important to know by heart if you want a true and deeper understanding of the scale. Tip 2. Play it. Play the sequence on all 6 strings. For example, here's the C major scale on the B string. Tip 3. Sing it. Okay, so this one is pretty straightforward. Learn to sing the scale. This will help you internalize the sound of the scale and it will develop your ears and you will recognize the sound of the scale when you hear it. La da 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 do do. Tip 4. Single string jamming. Explore the scale on one string with the root note in the background. Have fun and make music. So here's a short clip of me jamming with the C major scale on the B string. I'm trying to be melodic and I'm doing my best to come up with some interesting ideas. Why play the scale on only one string? Well, I would argue that if you do this, you will break out of playing pre-learned patterns and licks. You will get a deeper understanding of the fretboard and it will force you to be more creative. Tip 4.5. So change the root. So instead of playing, for example, the C major scale with the root C, change the root to another one. The C major scale has 7 different notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So any one of those 7 notes can actually be the root. Here's a short clip of me playing the C major scale over the root G. This is called modal playing. So I'm playing the G Mixolydian mode. This is the 5th mode of the major scale. When you do this exercise, listen carefully how each note relates to the root note. Listen and embrace the sound of each mode. Tip 5. Position playing. Playing on one string can for sure be fun and inspiring, but we need of course to practice our scales in different positions. So you can, for example, learn the 5 different cage positions. Here I'm playing the C major scale in a position that may be referred to as the E shape. Try to learn as many positions as possible and ignore the debate whether you should learn the cage system or 3 note per string patterns. Learn both and more. Tip 6. Diatonic intervals. It's always good to practice the scale in different diatonic intervals. This will help you come up with new ideas and melodies when you play the scale and when you improvise. Let me play the C major scale in a specific position in diatonic thirds. Tip 7. Diatonic triads. Practice the different diatonic triads, the chords of the scale. This is so good for so many reasons, but an obvious one is that it will be easier for you to play over different kind of chord progressions. You will learn how to outline chord changes. Play this slow and be always aware of which triad you are actually playing. Are you playing the 3rd triad of the scale, or are you playing the 4th triad of the scale? Play it slow and think. Tip 8. Diatonic 7th arpeggios. This exercise is kind of similar to the previous one. If it's good to know the diatonic triads of the scale, it's obviously good to also know the diatonic 7th arpeggios. Tip 9. Combine scales and arpeggios. Practice the scale in combination with a certain arpeggio. Here I'm playing the C major scale in combination with an E minor 7 arpeggio. This is a really great exercise if you want to develop your skills on how to play over chord changes. Tip 10. Jam over chord progressions. Improvise and play the scale over different kind of chord progressions. Here I'm using the C major scale and I'm trying to outline the following chords: C, A minor, G and F. Think about the triads and the diatonic 7th arpeggios that you can find within the scale when you do this exercise. Okay, so that's my 10 tips on how you can practice scales on guitar. I have obviously not talked about every possible way on how to practice scales on guitar. Ironically, I have not talked about the most important thing about scale practice, and that is, I would argue, steal licks and phrases from other guitar players that you like. This is so important. Everyone needs to build up their vocabulary of lines and licks. This is also scale practice in my opinion, as long as you are aware of which scale or scales the licks and the phrases are based on. So what's your thoughts about this subject? Do you practice scales already? And if you do, what's your approach? Do you have a practice routine? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you want to learn more about guitar playing and if you want me to keep posting these lessons, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Before I go, a special shout out to my supporters on my Patreon page. Thank you guys. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.